Already this week, Indiana has picked up a running back and possibly a starting quarterback in the transfer portal. But are the Hoosiers done?
You are Locked On Hoosiers, your daily podcast on the Indiana Hoosiers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in. It is the Locked On Hoosiers podcast. I'm your man, Jacob Goins. I appreciate you being here, making this your first listen or your first watch every single day. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which is your team every day. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL playoffs are almost here, but it's not too late to get in on the regular season action with FanDuel because right now, new customers can finish the season strong with $250 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Well, thank you so much for being here. Shout out to all my everydayers. You know who you are. Those that come back each and every day for a free podcast to you Monday through Friday. We also have bonus episodes throughout the week, like our breakdown of Fernando Mendoza, the quarterback who committed to Indiana on Christmas Eve, and bonus episodes on the weekend as well. Indiana basketball going to be hosting Winthrop on Sunday to wrap up non-con play. We'll give you a little preview about that. Plus, take a look at the current roster for 2025 for Indiana football, given who's coming back and the portal commits that we have already. But the question is that everybody's asking, right? As great as it is to get big name players like Hemby, the running back, or Mendoza, the quarterback, is Indiana done? Are we done? Who do we go after next? And look, I think it's fair for us to say that it's been a good start in the transfer portal. And I will continue to remind you of the fact that this was a team and a coaching staff with Curt Cignetti and everybody involved that was preparing for a college football playoff game. And so they were not able to be as active in the portal as some of these other programs until the season came to a screeching halt against Notre Dame, where after that, you saw us add a running back and a quarterback, possibly a starting running back, definitely a depth piece if nothing else, and most likely your starter for next season in Fernando Mendoza, who I want to talk about more in just a few minutes. But for Indiana, it's been successful so far. You've gone and gotten a tight end that you lost. You've gotten a couple of defensive tackles that you were losing, the running back and a quarterback, but we're no means done. And by no stretch of the imagination is this team done in the transfer portal. And I'll take it a step further. We can't afford to be done yet. We are not done in terms of filling the gaps and the holes that we need on this team. Right? If I were to ask you, hey, what was the biggest problem in the game against Notre Dame in the college football playoff? Where did we lack? It was up front, right? It was on the defensive line and especially on the offensive line. And as of this recording, as of this episode, me getting it ready here around the holidays, there have not been any portal commits just yet for Indiana on the offensive line. You have to go get some guys to fill in on that line. I think what we had was good, but you have to go get better and you have to go get more, right? In today's era, the same way I've talked about quarterbacks where you can't afford to not have a good quarterback room, you cannot afford to not have enough dudes in the offensive line room, and especially good dudes. When I say dudes, that's what I mean. Guys that can make a difference, guys that can start, play several spots on the offensive line. That is something that is so crucial. And I think what separates offensive linemen nowadays in college football, where if somebody goes down, you can move from right guard to left guard. You can move from tackle inside and play center. You can move wherever on the line. That's a tough thing to do and a very tall ask. But the ones that can do it are the ones that typically go and play on Sundays. And so Indiana, we have to go find, I think, several of those guys, because listen to what we have coming back at least next year on the offensive line. 13 as of right now, couple of redshirt seniors. You've got several juniors with Evans and Lynch and Carter Smith at tackle. You've got a sophomore and a bunch of freshmen. All right, listen to freshmen. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 that I'm counting freshmen on the offensive line, at least in the room that are going to be on the roster next season. You got to go get some dudes. And even with what we've brought in so far in terms of defensive line talent, right? You brought in Hosea Wheeler, the defensive tackle from Western Kentucky. Great. You also brought in Ratcliffe from Texas State, another defensive tackle. Great. But we need more. And I think we need some more dudes on the back end as well. I really like Marion Knighton, the NIU kid, the corner that's coming in. I think he's going to make serious headway in that room, and I think he's going to play some significant minutes for Indiana in the back end on the defense. But we can't get hung up on, oh, we got our quarterback. We're good. We're good. Problem solved. Got a good quarterback. Everything's fine. Well, not necessarily, because we had a good quarterback this year, right? We had Curtis Rourke, who was fantastic. He, barring a nasty thumb injury, and I'm sure you've seen that picture floating around, he was probably going to be sitting in New York for a Heisman Trophy ceremony. And I think Fernando Mendoza can absolutely be that type of quarterback. Will he be that good? I don't know. We're going to have to wait and see. But he can be somewhat near that level. But they're the same style of quarterback in terms of a pocket passer, make good plays, make good decisions, and move the ball down the field. But that was not good enough against Notre Dame. Heck, it wasn't good enough against Ohio State because you didn't have the dudes up front to compete with the likes of Ohio State and Notre Dame. And so if you don't go get those guys, then you're in trouble. But I do want to stress, I'm very happy with what we've done so far. As of this recording, including the Fernando Mendoza edition, that's 9 portal guys for Indiana. Beebe, the running back from UAB. You've got the kicker, Frank, from Texas State. The punter, McCarthy, from UCF. The corner, Marion Knighton, talked about him from NIU. You bring in 2 defensive tackles, Ratcliffe from Texas State, and also Wheeler from Western Kentucky. Nowakowski, the tight end, who we talked about in our Fernando Mendoza episode, from Wisconsin, power 4 guy. Bring in Hemby, who we talked about with Brian Smith earlier in the week, the Maryland running back, and Fernando Mendoza, your most likely starter at quarterback in 2025 from California. Very, very happy with what we've done so far, given the circumstances. And let's say this too, given the, what's the best way to say this? The lack of talent in the portal and lack of names because of how many of them already got snatched up or how many of them have not entered yet. I still think those are factors that must be mentioned when talking about Indiana in the portal, because we were behind most other programs. Very blessed. We were in the playoff, but that does have some sort of an effect. And so I think Indiana should be praised up to this point for doing what we've done, but we're nowhere near done. Offensive line, more defensive line, more secondary as well, because I like where our receivers stand. I like that we replaced a tight end, and I like that you got a quarterback, but I think you need another one. I still believe Indiana needs another quarterback just to at least fill out the room. You got 2 young guys in there, and now you've got Mendoza. Go get another one, make it 4 guys in there, and let's rock and roll for 2025. And with all of that, what does the current roster look like for Indiana with the portal additions, with the guys coming back? How about Aiden Fisher, the All-American, announcing that he's returning? We mentioned that the other day, but that has to be mentioned as well. Want to look at what the current roster for 2025 looks like for Indiana football. That's coming up next right here on the Locked On Hoosiers podcast. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by Rocket Money. Did Rocket Money help you find any subscriptions you forgot about or that you were paying for twice? It's happened to me several times. I've been telling you about how I've used this service to get rid of other services that I've been paying for that I had no idea about. Rocket Money made it so easy to track them all down. It's like having a personal assistant for your finances. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. It brings everything together all in one place, whether it's subscriptions, your spending habits, or even the goals goals that you want to set for 2025, Rocket Money has over a million or over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all of the app's premium features, including the subscription tracker, which is what I use. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/locked-on today. That's rocketmoney.com/locked-on. rocketmoney.com/locked-on. Welcome back into Locked On Hoosiers. Thank you so much for being here. Shout out to all of my everydayers. Hope you had a fantastic Christmas holiday and get to spend it with family and friends and doing the things that you love. And I'll tell you what, I love doing this podcast, and I hope that you are loving being here and being a part of this. Again, still on the road, getting episodes out the best way that I can. And so thank you so much for all of your support of the Locked On Hoosiers YouTube channel or the audio podcasting side. However you get this show, thank you so much for all that you do. If you are listening on audio, be sure that you are subscribed if you can. Be sure that you have those notifications turned. Right, we have bonus episodes that go out. Our Fernando Mendoza was a bonus episode. We also have weekend episodes sometimes. So be sure you have those notifications turned on. Don't want you to miss any of those. And also, for those of you on YouTube, like the video, comment your thoughts down below. Who should Indiana or what should Indiana be going after in the transfer portal moving forward? And be sure, if you have not already, subscribe to the channel. Okay, really do appreciate you and all of your support of the Locked On Hoosiers podcast. All right, so with all the transfers, the 9 so far as of right now, this recording, right? 9 transfers plus a lot of big names coming back. What does Indiana's roster look like for 2025 in terms of a positional breakdown? And the one that you have to highlight is, yes, the quarterback position, where Curtis Rourke graduates, Taven Jackson enters, and all hell breaks loose. We're like, crap, now what do we do? Well, thankfully, you went and you got Fernando Mendoza, who I think is a Curtis Rourke 2.0. He played bigger football, Power 4 at Cal, got 6 wins, beat an SEC team, kept it close with other top 25 programs. I just think he was lacking the talent around him. And this sounds crazy, but I don't think it is. I think Indiana has more talent than California. That's not a wild statement to make. And I think you can say that even for 2025, when you start looking at the running back room, the receiver room, even the tight end, Nowakowski that you brought back, got to get some dudes up front. Yes, we just talked about that. But the weapons around Mendoza next year are going to be really good. Listen to the running backs that are in the room right now, starting from bottom to top. Sean Cuono, the freshman, Kobe Martin, the freshman, Beebe, the junior transfer from UAB, Roman Hemby, right? You bring him back you bring him in from Maryland, and Kalen Black, who you bring back as a redshirt senior. Your running back room is solid. I'll say this. I think you could use another one. I think you could use another running back transfer because you lose some of your big names of Ellison and Lawton that you used heavily this past season. You can afford to go get another transfer running back if Indiana hasn't done so already. Then listen to the guys that Mendoza is going to be throwing the football to. Starting from bottom to top, freshman to senior, Miles Kendrick, Davian Chandler, LeBron Bond. Those are your freshmen. Your lone sophomore right now is Charlie Becker. Your junior is Omar Cooper. Solid. I mean, what a great, I say it as an addition because as of right now, he's coming back. Same thing with Elijah Surratt, even EJ Williams, who I think had big games this year. They were sporadic, sure. But having Williams, Surratt, and Cooper all coming back in a system that they've already played in, they can help Mendoza get more comfortable, and Mendoza can make them even better. So those are the guys he's throwing it to, plus Nowakowski, again, the transfer tight end from Wisconsin. Mendoza can shine here next year, can absolutely shine on the offensive side of the football. He gets protection, he's going to be fine. And I've seen some people with some concerns about Mendoza, which is fine, totally understandable, saying, isn't he just another Curtis Rourke 2.0 who can stand in the pocket and deliver a good ball, but maybe can't run as good as others, like a Taven Jackson? And yeah, I think that is a legitimate concern. I do. I think that's something that, while that is a growing and a popular trend in college football, that doesn't really seem to be Curt Cignetti's style, does it? Doesn't really seem to be the way he operates. And it doesn't seem to be the way his offense operates either. And I got some flack for what I'm about to say, but I'm going to double down on it. I still believe that losing Tino Sunseri is a really big deal. It's a really big deal on the offensive side of the football and in the quarterback room. Tino is legit, folks. He's really, really good. He's going to be a great coordinator on the West Coast. He will be a head coach within the next 5 years. You mark my words. He will be a head coach within the next 5 years. I don't know where, have no idea, but he's that good. And so I am curious on how the quarterbacks develop, how the quarterbacks recruit and play without Tino Sunseri on the sidelines, in the booth, in practice, whatever, because I do think that's a big loss. But in terms of the roster that Indiana brings back offensively, I love where it's at, but additions need to be made, and that can be done through the transfer portal. On the defensive side of the football, some new names that you need to know, guys that we've already talked about. Right, starting up front, you have Dominic Ratcliffe, the transfer, and you have Hosea Wheeler, the transfer, both on the defensive line. They're redshirt seniors. They both have a year of eligibility. You bring back Marcus Burris, another redshirt senior, working down now with Harrison, Monette, and Tucker. With juniors, you have a lone sophomore in Landino, and the freshmen in Calhoun, Garcia, and Jaravius Hall. Not bad. I mean, that's a manageable defensive line that you got bigger and more experienced by going and getting two seniors on that front that, let's be real, they're probably going to start next year when they step on campus for 2025. You got experience on the defensive line. It's time to make those guys better back behind them. On the edge, and I'll include edge and linebacker here, you've got a lot of returning guys, including some big-name seniors. Oh, I don't know, maybe just the All-American linebacker in Aiden Fisher. Just how massive of news is that? A kid can play. He's not even a kid. He's a grown man. He is a baller in the linebacker position. The All-American Aiden Fisher returning for Indiana's defense might just be the biggest news of the offseason, even with all the big-time portal buzz and portal news. That cannot be overlooked and understated how big Aiden Fisher is returning. So, look, your only seniors that you have on the edge and in the linebacker spot, I know they're a little bit different. I'm just throwing them all together for time's sake here. You've got Kamara on the edge, and you have Aiden Fisher in the linebacker spot. Junior-wise, you only got three. Snead off the edge and Turner and Jones on the linebacker unit. You're raw in there, man. Everybody else is sophomores and freshmen. You're raw on the edge and in the linebacker spot. Could be good, could be a positive. You've got all the potential in the world, and you're hoping some of your few seniors and juniors, your experienced leaders, can help them develop and get after the football. And then on the defensive side, in the back end, right, Marion Knighton is transferring in. You are, unfortunately, losing some big names, but as of right now, you retain some big names as well. And the one of those in there is D'Angelo Ponce. As of right now, he is still a 2025 kid. He's still on the roster for 2025, along with Bonds and Johnson, Jameer and JoJo, two in there. And I won't go through all the names. There's a lot of guys in there, but D'Angelo Ponce is one to highlight, of course. I think you have some talent at the freshman spot. I think Jalen Bell as a corner freshman is somebody to watch out for as well. And so that's what Indiana should be excited about. That's what you should be excited about as an Indiana fan, is all the big names that are coming back offensively and defensively. You pair that with what we've done in the portal, and the roster is going to be better next year. It's going to be better than a roster that just made the college football playoff. But as we've talked about, the schedule's tougher next year. Indiana's not sneaking up on anybody next year, and the expectations, are they higher next year? I don't know. I think that's a conversation for a different time. I say all of that to say this. I'm excited for next year, and you should be too. But there is still work to do in the portal, this window and the spring window. Don't forget about that now. You have the spring window for Indiana football to make additions to the roster as well. I like where we're headed, but we still got a lot of work to do. All right, coming up in our final segment here on Locked On Hoosiers, got to flip over to the basketball side as Indiana, the men, are in action this Sunday afternoon for the non-conference season finale. We'll have that for you and what it means and, gosh, how we can get better before Big Ten play gets back up and going in the start of 2025. That's coming up right here on Locked On Hoosiers. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL playoffs are almost here, but it's not too late to get in on the regular season action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can finish the season strong with $250 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. FanDuel has so many ways for you to pick up a W. Some of my favorites, I'm going to be honest, and I've said this every time, I love first touchdown scores. The odds are high. You can win big money, and they're just exciting. You're on the edge of your seat right from the get-go, right from the opening kick. I also like the second half winner. I like field goals made. All of that can be done on FanDuel. All right, so be sure that you are getting in on the action by visiting FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your chance at $250 in bonus bets at FanDuel.com. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right, final segment here on Locked On Hoosiers as we get into the weekend. Thank you so much for being here, making this truly your first listen or your first watch every single day. Had a lot of football conversation there. Do want to get to a little bit of basketball as the Hoosiers are back in action this weekend. They host Winthrop at Assembly Hall for the non-conference finale before Big Ten play gets ramped up again. And look, let's just say it like it is. We're supposed to win this game. And we're supposed to win it by a lot. I don't have any odds on this game yet. My guess, oh goodness. Oh, if I'm having a guess, let me think. Indiana will most likely be favored by, oh goodness, I'm going to say 12. Is that a fair number to say? 12? I don't know. I mean, Winthrop is not bad by any means. They're a 10-4 team coming into this matchup. I mean, Winthrop isn't bad. Were their next game. They won against Mercer. They got beat pretty good by Florida State. They hung around with Louisville for a little bit, but Louisville pulled away. They also lost to Georgia Southern by 2 and Virginia Tech by 6. I'm going to say this. I'll say Indiana's favored by 10 or 12, but if we don't show up and play, Winthrop has every ability to come in here on a Sunday afternoon in Assembly Hall that will be sold out because Indiana fans are loyal and we show up and do our thing. And Winthrop has every opportunity to come in here and upset us, and we wouldn't even know it. They have 4 guys that average double-digit points. You've got a couple of forwards, so this will probably since Atlantis, this will be our best view and best look, best challenge for Malik Renew, Umar Ballo, and Mackenzie Mbako because their 2 leading scorers are forwards with Kelton Tolford, who averages 15 points a game, and KJ Dossett, who averages 14 points a game. I think I pronounced that properly. You have those guys who average together 14 rebounds per game, and also they average over a block per game as well. You got shooting 56% and 55%. They don't shoot the free throw very well, but they're just going to ground and pound down inside, bump bodies, and try to draw fouls. And that's what Tolford and Dowsett do. They are going to throw it down low. They want paint touches. They'll work inside out. This team, I'm not going to say they're the most crazy shooting team in college basketball, but they're not bad. They're not bad by any means. They've got some dudes who can knock it down. That Dowsett kid's 42% from 3 as a forward. And then the guards you need to know about, Kason Harrison, Nick Johnson. Those are the other 2 double-digit scorers. Harrison averaging almost 14 points a game. Johnson averaging 11. This team scores 86 points a game, folks. They score 86 points a game. That spells trouble for Indiana, does it not? Especially for a team like us when we come out and start playing lazy defense to start the first and the second half. God, it drives me crazy. starting second halves lazy and no effort, especially on the defensive end of the floor. If we can get stops and we can prevent offensive rebounds and we can prevent runouts forced on our turnovers, we'll be fine in this game. I have no problem with that. I have no worry. But if we start getting handsy, if we get into foul trouble, Malik Renew, and if we can't stay off of them and can't, here's what I fear. Here's what I fear. Is that we get an early foul trouble with Malik Renew and Umar Ballo. Heck, even Mackenzie Mbako, too. He's normally pretty good defending without fouling, but he also gets blown by sometimes. My fear is that we get an early foul trouble, so then later on in the game, we either foul out or we have to back off and stay away and let them score easy buckets because we're afraid of fouling out and getting contact and being down to a limited roster. That's my fear. And Winthrop is good enough. I mean, you're talking about a tournament team. You're talking about a team that consistently, a program, I should say, that consistently makes the NCAA tournament. They're smart enough to take advantage of that. And if Indiana gets lazy on offense and just starts chucking up threes and we can't make them, Winthrop will take advantage. They are good enough to win this game. So if you're Mike Woodson and you're this Indiana Hoosiers team, Rutgers does not matter. Rutgers is not on your mind. That's the next game coming up as we get Big Ten play started back up. Who cares about them? I don't want to hear a word about them until you get through this game. Your full preparation, your full focus better be on this Eagles team because they're good enough to beat you. And you know how demoralizing that would be to lose this game in front of your home crowd before you start Big Ten play back up? Well, you're already 1-1. Remember, you already won a game against Minnesota and got embarrassed by Nebraska. Don't let this happen. Don't let this team hang around. They're good enough to do it, but you're so much better than them. Let your talent shine. Let your game plan be better and different. Work it inside. Pass it outside. You need some bench production on this game on Sunday. You need Goody to step up. You need Tucker to step up. I need consistent guard play from Carlisle, Rice, and Galloway. And I need Ballo, Malik, and McKenzie to just play grown man basketball. You do that, you're going to have no problems in this game against Winthrop on Sunday afternoon inside of Assembly Hall. All right, that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers. Thank you so much again for being here. It's been a crazy week with Christmas and content and news. I mean, it's been wild, and I appreciate you being here and supporting the show. However that you do that, if you're on audio, be sure that you are subscribed there, turning on those notifications. I don't want you to miss any episodes, okay? And for those of you on the YouTube side, like the video, comment your thoughts down below. Transfer portal, roster for next year, and Indiana basketball on Sunday against Winthrop. And if you have not already, subscribe to the YouTube channel. We're growing like crazy, and I want you to be a part of that, okay? This podcast is free to you. Every episode, whether it's 30 minutes, 8 minutes, doesn't matter. It's always free to you. So be sure you help me out and be a subscriber and an everydayer to the podcast. Okay. We are gone for the weekend, and we are back on Monday. All right, Hoosier fans. So until then, stay safe. I'll talk to you later.